Gonna wait like a few seconds, make sure somebody coming on. Because we live right now. It's like a little short tape delay. This is Derrick Hayes here live from Columbus, Georgia. Talking with my brother Trent Tucker from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We live with an exclusive interview. This is Life Skill, Life School, where we tie life skills into your life schools. I told you when I first started interviewing people, I was gonna bring you the biggest names of the game. I never thought I'd be interviewing people live in the middle of the day. We call this midday motivation. See, when we first started out, we brought you the curb because COVID-19 kicked us to the curb. And we talked about the stimulus. We even motivated you by saying you can do it. Then we told you, why did you push me? Because everywhere you go, somebody's there to push you. And hopefully it's then to push your passion into your purpose. And even last week, we asked the question, who are you? See, sometimes you gotta know who you are to find out why you are. So we're here today to talk to a legend in the game. He's from Flint, Michigan. He's played in the NBA. He's went on and changed the NBA. See, you think Steph Curry is a three-point guy, but if there was no Trent Tucker, there would be no Steph Curry. We're gonna talk to you about what he's doing after the NBA. So Trent, how you doing today?
Good, Derrick. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a blessing, man. I just want the people out there to know that everything you do is through relationships. You have to network and build relationships. I don't get to talk to some of the people that I talk to if I don't have relationships. And you can't always, many times people want to get to the superstars. They want to get to the celebrities or to the actors or to the actresses. But you got to have relationships with their publicists, their managers. You know, it's a team effort. So I just like to share that with people because sometimes people will see me with an entertainer or see me interview somebody that's an elite in their eyes, but they don't realize what goes behind the scenes. Now we're gonna take it back like 8-track, Trent. Me and you might not know, but we two Midwest brothers,
I know that. I know
you from Michigan, I'm from Illinois. If you put that M in front of that IL, that's meal, because we all gotta eat. We all gotta eat. Right. So let's take it back to Flint. How was it like growing up in Flint back then and how it is now with, because all we see in the news is with the water crisis?
Flint was a great city to grow up in when I was a child. I was lucky enough, Derrick, to have a mother and a father in the household. And that was very important to me. Having 3 older brothers also, they were able to keep me on track and to make sure that I was doing some of the right things. To have an opportunity to fulfill my goals and my dreams that I had set for myself. But to be on the right track, you need people in place that can help you understand the road that you're going to travel. And outside my family, the community in Flint was great because they were willing to be, those second parents to make sure, that you did things the right way. And having that support, and for anyone who is going to have a chance to be successful in life, so many other people would have to play an important part to that success. And I think all the people outside of my family in Flint who were there to support me to give me a chance to make it.
Man, somebody talking to you through your earbud, because that was one of my next questions. I was going to ask you who on and off the court was inspiring you, and also what made you want to hoop? Because you could have picked any sport.
Baseball was my best sport, but growing up in Flint, basketball was the game, and it was the game that I enjoyed a great deal. And I had a chance. So many good players who came out of the city of Flint. And as a kid growing up, the only thing you wanted to do at that time was to make the high school basketball team. Many people really dream about going beyond high school, but my thought process was different. I was able to come in contact with some people who had gone beyond high school. And that opened up my thought process that things could be bigger than the city that I was growing up in. And like I mentioned before, I was so lucky, to have that support, especially in the household and in the community, to allow me to think differently, to think big, and to let me know that I had what it took and the support behind me to achieve something that was greater than I thought I could ever achieve before.
And if you just turning in, this I'm talking to Double T from the Flint. They don't know about that. Now, after you thought about playing basketball, did you have a backup plan if you didn't make it in basketball?
That's a great question. That's a great question that you asked. Growing up as a kid, the only thing I thought about was playing basketball. But then I was lucky to get a scholarship to go to the University of Minnesota. And most young people who think about playing professional sports, back in my day, they don't think about a second. They don't think about, hey, I may not make it. And if I don't make it, what's next for me? It came back to haunt me in about 2005 and 2006. Lucky enough to go on and play professional basketball and have a long career. I played against and with some of the greatest players to ever play the game. I played for Hall of Fame coaches. But back in 2005, 2006, there was a coaching vacancy on the basketball team at the University of Minnesota. And many people thought during that time that Trent Tucker would qualify to be an assistant coach. I knew the game. I had played the game. But Derrick, I wasn't qualified. Not because I didn't know basketball. But in 1982, when I left to go to the New York Knicks, I had not finished my college degree. And what I didn't complete some 20 plus years before came back to haunt me some 25 plus years later. And on that day, I told myself that this would never, ever happen to me again. I decided on that day to go back to school and get my college degree, because you never know in life when that opportunity is going to come. If you're not good enough, you're disappointed, but you can live with that. But being not prepared, it's very, very hard to deal with. And I told myself that I would never, ever, ever put myself in a position, not to fulfill something that I would love to do because I'm not prepared. And I try to tell young people all the time, make sure you finish what you start, because you never know when that opportunity is going to present itself.
Man, that's a great point, because education equals elevation.
Right.
And you can educate yourself in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And what you mentioned Minnesota, but even in high school, you are a high school All-American.
Right.
What made if you're a high school All-American, you have choices. And what made you choose Minnesota?
Came down with my final three choices were UC, Iowa, and Minnesota. And the reason that Minnesota won out was because I had a connection there for sure, and a guy, assistant coach by the name of Jesse Evans, who had been with me through middle school and my first year in high school. And after my sophomore year in high school, he left to go to the University of Minnesota. And he said, one day I may come back to, yeah, right. You never think as a year-old kid that somebody's going to come back 3 years and you're a scholar college. And when he came to recruit me, I knew that this would be for me to go. I took a college visit, back in October 1977. And my college visit was that on a football weekend, the University of Michigan was in. And as a kid growing up in Michigan, everybody at that time was a Michigan Wolverine football fan.
Right.
So I go to the game on that day. Is ranked #1 in the country. They got the best team in football. Minnesota knocked them off 16-0 to upset the #1 team in college football. And when I left the stadium, I said, you know what? This may not be a bad place to go to school.
Okay. Now, us being both from the Midwest, when I was growing up, when I was 9 and 10 years old, that's when you entered the Big Ten. And you played against some legends.
Right.
Not just legends in college, but they became legends in the NBA. Like you played against Isaiah Thomas at Indiana, Magic Johnson at Michigan State, and Derek Harper at the University of Illinois. What was it like playing against them in college? And how did that prepare you to play in the pros? Because you even won a Big Ten championship and you're a college All-American.
At that time, you're against the best of the best. And if you feel like that, you as an individual and your team is good enough to compete with them, that you may have a chance to play at the ultimate level if you're willing to put the work in. You mentioned Derrick Harper. And the guy in the backcourt with him during that time was my first cousin named Craig Tucker.
Wow.
And Craig and I had competed so many years against each other in our high school days in Flint, Michigan. And when he went on to play with Derrick Harper at the University of Illinois, that was always a tough matchup for us. You know, he and I was drafted the same year to the same team. And the reason that, you know, he didn't make the team at that time because it became a numbers game. We had too many guaranteed contracts. But my cousin Craig was a top flight basketball player, and he and Derrick Harper in the backcourt during that time, you know, they were a lot of fun to watch. Having the opportunity on a nightly basis in the bid to compete against the Ronnie Lesters and the Isaiah Thomases and the Magic Johnsons only prepared me for the next level.
Well, you sometimes people get, you know, with the bad boys and different things like that. Well, you just let them know how good Isaiah was.
Oh, Isaiah Thomas was as good as they come. You know, to me, he's the second greatest point guard to ever play behind Magic Johnson. And before Michael Jordan came into the league and to really elevate as an individual, becoming a great team player and a championship player, you know, his career, was a point in time to me that Isaiah Thomas, I thought he was as one-on-one player. He was a guy that was a winner. He knew how to set his team up. He was tough. He was so much fun to watch. Isaiah, to me, is all the things that has come with him as being a basketball player, all-pro, multiple times. He was a fantastic player.
Now, after becoming a college All-American, you're drafted number 6 by the New York Knicks. What was it like playing in New York? And you know how you always hear the stories about how New York is a tough place, tough market to play in. And then, you know, now you see things with the owner, Dolan, and issues with some of the other players. Well, what's it really like being one of the top picks and also, you know, playing in that organization for all these years?
You know, New York City is the ultimate city to play in. You know, it's the ultimate challenge, you know, for a professional athlete, not on the court, you know, but off the court as well. You know, there's so many distractions. There's so many things going on. It's a city that never sleeps. And how do you manage? How do you find a balance, you know, from your social life to your professional life? And what helped me, you know, really understand and navigate New York City, I had some great vets on my team. And my first mentor when I was by the name of Truck Robinson. And he was the one that I, you know, when things weren't going on as a rookie, because there would be good days and bad days. You just need somebody you can go to so they can help you understand things you need to do to keep yourself on track. And by having guys like Truck Robinson and Lewis Orr in my camp, you know, that helped me. But outside of my teammate, you know, the one guy that really helped me navigate the NBA was Julius Dr. J. Irving.
Dr. J.
I got to know Dr. J very well because he and I shared the same agent. And for any kid growing up during that time, you know, Dr. J was a man. And the moment that I had a chance to meet Dr. J, I knew I had made it to the big times.
Hey, I remember the first time I met Dr. J. We was on the Tom Joyner cruise. Fantastic voice. Have you ever been on that?
I have not.
Oh man, you missing out. But I got on the elevator. I got on the elevator, right? Because see, before Jordans, you wanted those leather Dr. J's because everything before that was canvas. So I got on the elevator, and I didn't want no autographs. I didn't want no pictures. So I just stood next to Doc. I looked down and I said, "He's really tall, but he's real smooth." But the second time I seen him, I had to get a picture with him though. But I'm glad you mentioned. Yeah.
Doc was a man, and as a young player, to have a chance to sit down and talk with someone like Dr. J was amazing. The things that you could learn from someone like that. In the class you talked about that he had, the style that he brought to the game. There was like Dr. J, and for me to have the great to get to know him as a young player and still know him as today, that really helped me grow, as an NBA player, but also helped me grow as an individual off the court as well.
Did you, being that you were with the Knicks, did you have any interactions with Spike Lee?
Oh, for sure. It was, I got to know Spike, my time there. But New York City brings out, so many entertainers. It's the mecca of basketball. It's the pressure to be good on a nightly basis. And if you can make it in New York City, you can make it in anywhere. But the one athlete that I admired the most, who was able to handle New York City the right way, and he became a Hall of Fame player, superstar year in, year out, and he led his teams to championships. I have a great deal of respect for this professional athlete, Jeter. I don't think I saw any.
Derrick Jeter.
Yeah, I saw anyone go through New York City with a 20-year career to be able to navigate New York City like Derrick Jeter did.
But that any one of your Michigan brothers?
My Michigan brothers, you know that.
That Midwest. See, they think he's just all the way New York, but he was in the Midwest.
Right. See, Derrick Jeter, was everything that was good about baseball, and how he was able to manage his social life along with his professional life. And the one thing that admired me the most about Derrick Jeter, with all the fame and fortune that came with him, he never forgot about why he was there, and that was to play baseball for the New York Yankees.
And as you finish your NBA career, you won a championship with the Chicago Bulls. See, the beautiful thing about that, like I mentioned, I'm from Illinois, so we was already Bull fans. Back then the White Sox wasn't doing anything. The Cubs hadn't won anything. The Bears were off and on. Walter was doing the thing, and they won in '85. But we were rooting for somebody,
right?
And so, what was it like? Because we only see what's on The Last Dance, but what was it like to have Phil Jackson as a coach, and what did you learn from the Zen Master?
Phil was great to have as a coach, and when you look at all the talent, that the Chicago Bulls had at that time, and especially, the talent of a Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Phil Jackson had the right mindset and the right game plan to pull all of that together and to get everyone to think it's one. His main thing was that, execute under pressure. And how you execute under pressure is through preparation. Our daily practice was all about making sure we understood the nuances of our offense. When the defense responded here and did certain things there, the offense still could flow because players knew exactly where they had to be. So when you get stuff in those pressure moves, your preparation was in place to help you execute and get the job done.
Now, The Last Dance, one of the most celebrated documentaries of all time. What can you add to it? What can you share with us about the experience, about what you saw, about what people may not even understand?
Well, for me, having the opportunity with the Chicago Bulls in my last year to be a part of a team, that was good enough to win the championship, was a fantastic opportunity for me and a great place to be. Playing alongside Michael Jordan was a treat indeed. And now I have a chance, to play with the greatest in the history of the game. And, he was a great teammate. He was a guy that allowed a player like myself, to elevate and put me in a position, where I could help the team. Scottie Pippen was a fantastic player, a top all-time 50 player. And so many guys were the right fit at the right time. A guy like B.J. Armstrong made so many big shots, during that 1992-93 run. John Paxson, knocking down the game winner in Game 6 against the Phoenix Suns to secure the championship. It took all of those pieces to come together, to plug in along with the two superstars that we had, make this work as a team. But when your leader, has the right mindset, he sets the tone every single day. And when you know that your leader is going to be there in the biggest moments, the guys that's going to make the right play at the right time, it's a whole lot easier now for his teammates to follow. And Michael Jordan, on a daily basis, he was a guy that was well prepared, step into those moments and lead his basketball team.
Now, you mentioned how MJ made your job easier. But a lot of people don't realize, even in those finals, you was 12 for 26 from the three-point line, over 40% from the three-point line. So when you had your opportunities, right, you made the most of them. So even in New York, they had what they call the Trent Tucker rule. Can you tell us how you changed the game?
Well, back in 1990, it was ML. And it was the first year the NBA had gone to tenths of seconds on the game clock and the shot clock. And we had the last possession with 1/10 of a second left on the clock. So we had one option. And the option that we had at that time, we was going through a lob pass, to the front of the rim for Patrick Ewing. And I was supposed to be a decoy to go from the left side to the right side, hoping that I would bring Michael Jordan with me, and that would empty out the backside where Patrick Ewing could fake up and go for the lob pass. Michael Jordan, being the smart player that he was, he read the play. We didn't have a second option because there wasn't time enough to get to a second option. So I went along the baseline, up the sideline, knowing that Mark Jackson was up against the 5-second count. So I ran in front of Mark Jackson. He gave me a little flip pass. I turned and shot the ball as quickly as I could. And when the ball left my hand, I knew that the shot was online. The only thing I was concerned about at that time, did I have enough distance to get it to the rim? And when the ball went in, the garden exploded. We ran off the floor, and 2 or 3 days later, it became the Trent Tucker rule.
See, Detroit had the Jordan rules, but the NBA had the Trent Tucker rule. So people need to know that. You're a high school All-American, college All-American. You made it happen in the NBA. And my question now is, you living in Minneapolis. How is life like there now with the death of George Floyd? And one of the reasons why I asked this is because one of your NBA veteran fellows, Steven Jackson, is real close to George Floyd. So how is the vibe? How is the atmosphere in your city, and are other NBA players reaching out to you? Because I know it's a close-knit brotherhood.
No, not only just other NBA players, some other friends I have around the country as well. And one of my good friends who's in the entertainment business right now reached out to me the other day, JB Smooth. JB Smooth and I have been friends for a number of years, and he reached out to me the other day for one to check in and see how the family was doing, making sure I was okay, but also, just concerned about the situation now that has happened, in our city. It's a very difficult time. It's a very unfortunate situation. And I'm hoping that at some point in time that we all can come together so that we can get beyond some of these incidents that continue to happen in our community. I believe that, the people in place will do the right things, to bring justice to this situation so that, we can put some closure to this and begin to move on and heal. But as we move on from this situation now, we have to ask ourselves, as people of this state, of this city, and also around the country, how can we come together? How can we find, a commonality between us all and sit down and have an honest conversation about what it's going to take, for all of us to get on the same page. We need to have that open communication to make things better for the future of our kids, because it's up to us, I think, now to put things in place to give our kids that brighter future that they're looking for.
I appreciate that. You mentioned the kids, and I know you do a lot of work with the youth. Can you touch on why you wanted to be a part of the Summer Eats program in Minnesota?
Well, you know, with COVID-19 has hit a lot of people in a very difficult way, and it has put a lot of people behind the eight ball. And with the schools closing, a lot of kids depended on those school meals, and we still have to find a way to feed our young people. And being a part of the Summer Eats program has allowed us now to provide those opportunities. And what this program would do, it will give people, you know, the opportunity to live where food is being served. And it takes a community to come together now, you know, to rally around, you know, the people who need help the most. I've always said if I was lucky enough to be in a position one day where I could give back and to make a difference in the lives of someone else, that would be the greatest thing that any person could do. Because along the way for me, there were so many people who gave of themselves to make it happen for me. And I used to ask them over and over again, what can I ever do to pay you guys back? And they say, don't worry about it from a monetary standpoint, but just pass on the knowledge. And if you ever find yourself in a situation, make sure that you lend out your hand to help someone else so they can find a better place to stand on. And what this program is doing now, it is giving us the opportunity, and with so many others, to continue to provide those meals for our kids in our community.
Hey, that's a blessing. Like I tell people, in order to get a blessing, you have to be a blessing.
Right.
And my brother, I thank you, man. We taking it back like 8-track. You know, we telling your life story here. You know, we took them back to Flint. You know, we went through the Big Ten, the NBA with MJ, and we took them into Minnesota. And if you're ever on Fifth Avenue, I want you to go by this restaurant called Searles. Are you familiar with that?
I would do that.
And go in there. I want you to ask for a guy named Tony Jackson.
Tony Jackson, okay.
Tony Jackson is the executive chef. And see, just like that NBA brotherhood is tight, you know, where I'm from, Rantoul, Illinois, our neighborhood, our village is tight as well. So Tony Jackson is from my village, but he's in your city, and he's the executive chef at Searles on Fifth Avenue. So if you get a chance, go in there and just shake his hand, support his business, and let him support yours. Because you're doing with the Summer Eats, and he's a chef, that might be a partnership, you know, waiting to happen. And
that's what it's all about, is being able to create that team unity. Because across the country, we're all in this together. It has to be a team effort. And if we're not willing to come together as a team, the United States has to be a team. And if we can find a way to sit down and have conversations about how we can help each other, I think our future for our kids will be even brighter than they could ever imagine.
I appreciate you. And before we close out, I'd like to say thank you once again. And also, you have your cap on, but can you leave some words of wisdom for these young athletes that are not only watching now, but will get the video? Because I'm around young people all the time, and sometimes they need to hear from somebody that's done it at the highest level.
I want to say, continue to work hard. You know, surround yourself with people who think like you. Tap into the thought process of people who have gone on to make it, the journey that you're trying to travel. You know, pick their brains, get that knowledge, so they can help you, you know, carve out your plan on how you're going to have a chance to make it to the next level. If you have a parent or a guardian, someone who has been there for you, make sure you listen to them, because they understand exactly what you need to do. And when things get tough, you can always turn to them for help. Don't ever forget the people who have come before you, the people who have sacrificed, you know, to make life a lot better for you. Always keep them close to you. And also make sure you start what you finish, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come. And like I mentioned before during our earlier conversation, if you're not good enough, you're disappointed. Live with that. But if you're not prepared, that's a very hard thing to live with.
This is Derrick Hayes, Life School. Life skill, life school. Trent Tucker. We did it to you once again. And next week is MJ Badone, CEO, celebrity, publicist of Indra Public Relations. Then we coming back on June 11th with Alan Alford. You might not know him, but he has a book called Sell Your Little Heart Out. He's the #1 salesperson in the history of Geico. He has Warren Buffett on speed dial. And it's a blessing just to do these interviews because you never know who's watching, you never know who's looking, you never know who's going to be inspired. So until next time, next Tuesday, next Thursday, come by and say hi. And on Thursday, we call this the Thursday interview. That's exclusive.
All right.
And we thank you.
All right. My M-Man. All right.